their coffee. So that will make it a full house. We are supposed to start at 5:40, and surprisingly it's exactly 5:40. So it's a rare coincidence. We'll start with a prayer by this young lady here. You want to come to the front? So first the lighting of the lamp, then the prayer. Okay. So we can start with the lighting of the lamp. Simultaneously, we have to invite the guests to the stage, and I would like to invite the author himself because of my admiration for him. I worked under him, and to write a book at this age is indeed, it calls for a lot of discipline. But of course, the subject is something about which is very passionate. So Ravi garu, meer vachi okkasari kuchunte. Meer kuchonడి sir, meer bhajjalo kuchonడి. Where O'Flaherty sits is the head of the table. So now I call upon the chief guest of the evening, Sri P.S. Rammohan Rao garu, former governor, former DGP, and a very venerable figure of the Andhra Pradesh police. So he's already with us. May I invite Sri S. Chakravarti, the civil side of support. I would be tempted to invite Mrs. Ravi. She's entitled to a seat on the dais, but in case it's a little embarrassing, then I'll invite Sri A.K. Khan, former police commissioner of Hyderabad, and a very popular figure, speaks 3 languages very eloquently, and a Haji, I think twice Haji. Okay. So now that it's all there, may I request the chief guest to kindly light the lamp, and then simultaneously we can also have record అయిపోయిందా పాట పాడతారా ఇది శృతియా
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो करतु मे पापं सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते दीपो करतु मे पापं सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शङ्करपूजिते शारदे सर्वसखोदरि शारदे शङ्करपूजिते शारदे सर्वसखोदरि शारदे अद्भुतचरिते शारदे अद्भुत चरिते शारदे शृङ्गगिरिस्ते शारदे श्रुति प्रतिपादे शारदे शृङ्गगिरिस्ते शारदे श्रुति प्रतिपाद्ये शारदे शङ्कर पूजिते शारदे सर्वसखोदरि शारदे शङ्कर पूजिते शारदे मङ्गलदायिनी शारदे सङ्गीतप्रिये शारदे मङ्गलदायिनी शारदे सङ्गीतप्रिये शारदे कामितवरदे शारदे कोमलचरणे शारदे कामितवरदे शारदे कोमलचरणे शारदे शङ्कर पूजिते शारदे सर्वसखोदरि शारदे शङ्कर पूजिते शारदे शङ्कर पूजिते शारदे.
An excellent prayer. Deepan Jyoti Parabrahma Deepan Jyoti Saraswati Deepena Sajate Sarvam Sandhya Deepa Namostute. This is Sandhya. Not quite the Asura Sandhya, but Sandhya all right. Now we will request Aishwarya to give bouquets first to the chief guest, Sri Ramohan Rao Garu. To the author, Sri Chakravarti Garu. Sri A.K. Khan Garu. Oh, 3. Okay. It is deemed that A.K. Khan has already been given. It doesn't really matter. It is my duty to once again welcome you all. I am sure that every one of you present here has personal acquaintance with Sri Ravi. You know his background and the tremendous gene pool that he has inherited. But there may be an odd person or two that his grandfather, Sri Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, was one of the 6 members of the drafting committee of the Constitution of India. These days the Constitution is still being debated whether it can be amended, including the preamble or not. Notwithstanding all that, the greatest contribution to the people of India is indeed the Constitution as drafted by Sri Ambedkar and his 5 other colleagues. So he inherits that gene pool, as a consequence of which he has a photographic memory and he can recite any part of any of the, most of these plays are rather, plays of Shakespeare are rather lengthy, but he can quote from any of those stanzas or lines. That's because he's very passionate about English language in general, but Shakespeare in particular. Though he chose to study physics and his profession is policing, both of which he excelled in, but his heart has always been with Shakespeare. And that is how this book that we are going to release very shortly has been written by him, notwithstanding his somewhat failing health. Of course, mentally extremely alert, as alert as a 16-year-old boy. but still sitting and writing on his laptop is indeed something which demands a lot of physical energy also. So with that, I suppose I have fulfilled my duty of welcoming you all. Now, the publisher, Sri Divakar, the publishing house is Creative Workshop. They published this book, and I would like Sri Divakar as the publisher to say a few words. And then, of course, we'll have the book release.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and privilege for me to be here for the release of the book, or should I say a thesis, written by Ravi Garu. I have brought out an eclectic collection of books ranging from autobiographies to fiction to poems and travelogues. But Confessions of a Shakespeare Addict will be one publication that will occupy a very important place in my gallery. I should first thank Sri R.K. Raghavan, former director of CBI, for introducing me to Mr. Ravi. From the first teleconversation I had with Mr. Ravi, we hit off very well. We had a lot of mutual interests, and he's such a great conversationalist. He keeps you engaged. His knowledge and passion for the bard are impressive, and his enthusiasm is infectious. Most of us would have read Shakespeare at least as a non-detailed text in school, and perhaps we would have acted in a few school plays on Shakespeare for the annual day function. But that would be it. We would have probably heard a few things. However, to learn about all these unknown facets of Shakespeare from him, from this eminently readable book, is really mind-boggling. Sri Ravi has written this book in such an easy style that even non-literary readers will find it interesting and engaging. With some lovely photographs included, Confessions of a Shakespeare Addict is sure to enlighten and entertain us. I am now eagerly looking forward to the second volume of the book, Ravi Garu. My best wishes to Ravi Garu and his lovely family and for the success of this function. Thank you.
Thank you, Divakar Garu. Now we come to the main event, the release of the book, followed by a message of Sri Ram Mohan Rao Garu. First, last. So is that the book release, normally it's wrapped up, but The chief guest has exercised his right to speak whenever he wants, and now he chose to be the last speaker. His will be the last word. So, it is appropriate then that we would like to have a response from the author, Sri Ravi, especially on the various travails that he had to endure in writing this book, how long it took, etc. 1 year. That's all. My response.
What do you want me to say?
Say whatever comes from your heart, sir. You're not answerable to anybody, not even to Mrs. Ravi.
But I thought
He said he would speak last.
I'll speak at the end. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there was an old second-hand bookshop. There is an old second-hand bookshop on the road in Madras, near my house. One day when I used to go there frequently, and one day I located a book by Logan Pearsall Smith on reading Shakespeare. I bought that book. It changed my attitude to poetry forever. I've read that book a countless number of times, and I think it's one of the best books in Shakespeare I've ever read. From then on, Shakespeare has been a passion, and my interest grew very rapidly. When I went to London in 1963, I went to Stratford-upon-Avon for the first time. Well, it was a great experience because Laurence Olivier and Vivian Leigh gave an unscheduled performance of Antony and Cleopatra in the Royal Shakespeare Theatre at Stratford-upon-Avon. One thing about Stratford-upon-Avon, people confuse Stratford-upon-Avon with Stratford-on-Avon, particularly in India. Stratford-upon-Avon is the market town in which Shakespeare was born. Stratford-on-Avon was the district in which Stratford-upon-Avon is situated. And the whole thing is situated in Warwickshire County. Then when I went, watching Olivier saying, "Let Rome and Tiber melt, and the wide arch of the ranged empire fall, my space is here." That is the height of theatrical canon in my view. I visited Stratford-upon-Avon many times, and according to officials in the Royal Shakespeare Company, some of whom have become my friends, I hold the record for a tourist for visiting Shakespeare. I have visited Stratford-upon-Avon 11 times. During the last visit, I had a very interesting experience. There were a group of people reciting Shakespeare passages in the garden in Shakespeare's house. Like a tourist, I was walking by when something caught my attention. These people were reciting. Then they were asking everybody, which passage would you like us to recite? Then when it came to my turn, I asked him, can you recite from Hamlet, To Be or Not to Be, from Merchant of Venice, The Quality of Mercy is Not Strained. Then they recited for my sake. And then they said, would you like to recite anything? I said, of course I would. Then I stood there and recited, "Dear nature here, dear goddess here, suspend thy purpose if thou didst intend to make this creature fruitful. Into her womb convey sterility, from a delicate body never spring to a babe to honor her. She must teem, create a child of spleen, that it may be a disnatured torment to her. Let it stamp wrinkles on her brow of youth, with cadent tears fret channels in her cheeks, turn all her mother's laughter to contempt and pain, that she may feel how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child." There's a big applause. They said, no tourist has ever recited Shakespeare in this place. You know the room there, that's where baby Shakespeare slept. I would say that was one of the greatest experiences in my life. Then during the number of times I visited, one visit, I went to the grave of Shakespeare. And then suddenly I realized that beneath my feet lay the rest of the brain that had conceived Hamlet and Macbeth, the far-sighted vision that from the depths of life, and the hand that had traced the sonnets. My little son was by my side. He said, Nana, you seem to be in a trance. I said, I am. The thing is so moving that I could not be otherwise. During the latest visit, like this, I have been doing a lot of research into Shakespeare. I don't want to mention, I can't obviously mention all the things that I read. Then sometimes when I read some poetry, I look for an echo from Shakespeare. Like for example, there is Churchill said, Hitler knows that he will have to lose us in this island, break us in this island, or lose the war. If we stand up to Hitler, then all mankind, including what we fought for, will move forward into great uplands. But when we fail, we will sink into the abyss of a new dark age, made more sinister by the lights of a perverted science. Let us therefore brace ourselves forward and bend ourselves so that if the British Commonwealth and its Parliament last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour. Now, to me it looked as though nobody had done this before. I seem to have read somewhere in Shakespeare this finest hour. Then it suddenly struck me, it was Antony who looked at the body of Caesar and said, this was the noblest Roman of them all. All the conspirators, save only he, did that they did envy of great Caesar. He only in a general honest thought and common good to all made one of them. His life was gentle, and the elements so mixed in him that all nature might stand up and say, this was a man. See, this, I can proudly say now that I never found this in the Shakespearean canon, anybody noticing that. Like this, there are many such 2 or 3 more which in my research I found. You will find them all in my book. I don't want to bore you with all of them now. Then, when I was a young boy, I used to be a chauffeur for my uncle. Not a chauffeur, they call a dog band. I used to go with my uncle in the beach road and all. The famous English scientist Powell had come to visit Madras Institute of Mathematical Sciences, of which my uncle was the director. Powell, myself and my uncle, we were driving down the beach road when my uncle casually told this man, he is an addict of Shakespeare. Then Powell immediately stood up in the car, he jumped up and said, since brass nor stone nor earth nor boundless sea, but sad mortality overstrays this power. Then my uncle stopped him and said, then he stopped. He couldn't remember the rest. Then I took over and said, oh, how shall summer's honey breath. Then Powell looked at me with awe and said, I have not seen anything like this even in Oxford or Cambridge. What he meant was, not that I was flattered by the tribute, but what he sent was very significant. A Nobel laureate telling that Shakespeare is the greatest genius ever born on earth. That shows a measure of Shakespeare's greatness. Then during the London Olympics, 2012, there was a replica of the globe which was built there. Almost the entire crowd which went to see the Olympics went to the Globe Theatre and what inspired them was there was a book of Nelson Mandela, autographed by Nelson Mandela, Julius Caesar. That was the author of this story writes that there have been scientists in every walk of life. A scientist and a poet are different. A scientist discovers a law already present in nature. It's just that conventionally, a man who discovers some law of gravity, he is supposed to have discovered gravity. Whereas poetry is not like that. If Gray had not written the elegy, nobody else could have. If Shelley had not written Ozymandias, nobody else could have. If Shakespeare had not written Hamlet, we would not have had Hamlet today. Then Pavel's anecdote I told you, then London anecdote I told you, then Shakespeare is too great a theme. I feel like holding anyone who talks of Shakespeare must have a kingdom for a stage and monarch to behold the swelling scene. Now, with these few short words, I don't want to go on and on about all this. I gave you an idea as to how Shakespeare can infect a man's mind to the point of gratitude for the rest of his life. Thank you, sir.
Did somebody ask you to stop, sir? It was music all through.
No. I don't think I should reach that stage. People say, why are you continuing to talk?
Are you ready, sir? Ready? Announce చేయమంటారా? Well, we had a sample of what Mr. Ravi is, even at this age. Phenomenal memory. It's something that even if you give me the text of Act 4, Scene 1 of Hamlet, I won't be able to read it. He recited it. Maybe he learnt it God knows, maybe 75 years ago. As a small child, he must have learnt it in Ramakrishna Mission High School. Anyway, we can go on and on. So now would you like to say a word, sir, Chakravarti garu? Of course, Mr. Ram Mohan Rao garu, he was about to deliver the speech, and I wrenched the mic out of him. So go ahead, but make sure that he is normally Ram Mohan Rao garu last word.
Can I come to the podium and speak?
Please.
No, I am very short. So let it Respected Sri Ram Mohan Rao garu, Jayanti Ravi, Mr. Ravi the author, Mr. Khan, ladies and gentlemen. When I entered the room, I never thought I would get onto the podium. Secondly, after getting into the podium, I never thought I am going to speak. Now, the entire situation has come such a way that I thought I should speak. But how long is the speech going to be? The point is, the length of the speech of a speaker is in inverse proportion to his age. I am 87 plus. Perhaps I am the oldest person barring one or two. Now the point here is that I would like to speak on the subject only because Ravi is one of my very, very dear close friends. I have an interest in Shakespeare, but I don't have his sweep or knowledge. What did Ravi do with Shakespeare? To make a pun of the word, if Shakespeare were to be in his grave, he has shaken Shakespeare to get into the real essence of what he said. And Ravi has pierced him, Shakespeare pierced him and got the real essence out of it. He breathed Shakespeare, he inhaled Shakespeare, he exhaled Shakespeare, he drank Shakespeare, and he is an addict of Shakespeare. You can see how passionate he is about this. The other day, I was with him for a few days back. I could see that even at this ripe age of his, he is actually handling a book on Shakespeare and asked me if I could also perhaps make a commentary on his writing on Shakespeare. Then I told him that unfortunately I got into the IAS, so I am a generalist of no specialism. And number two, I also mentioned that even though I liked Shakespeare, I liked English literature. Actually, I'm a student of mathematics and statistics, not even literature. I thought I may not be equal to that. But one thing I should say about Ravi, he has a penchant for surfing the net. And he is sending the messages to his all friends in a group. Some of the most fantastic, wonderful messages he had sent. Some of them are, for instance, recently he sent one where a train manufactured by China goes into the sea and goes on its surface, then gets onto the track and goes on the land. Such a thing I have never seen anywhere. He is so fond of picking up things which will interest people that it's a great pleasure to be in the group in which he finds himself. Now, I'm going to stop with only one small anecdote about Ravi. How do you place Ravi as a persona? What is he? I'm reminded of what Albert Einstein said. He said, that's going to apply to Ravi. Einstein said, a successful person is one who takes a lot from the society and gives back some part of it or most of it back to the society. That's a successful person. Maybe businessmen, some very good intellectuals, they take a lot of society, give back out to society. But he said, Einstein didn't stop with that. He said, a purposeful person is one who takes very little of society but gives a lot back to society in a big way. That is Ravi. So I would like to say that Ravi is one of the intellectuals in this country, and I know his work, and he is not just a policeman. He was all right as a police officer, a very successful one, but really where he has been at the acme of his career is his passion for Shakespeare and what he has given back to society in terms of Shakespeare. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Mr. A.K. Khan also worked under Mr. Ravi, but mostly in policing matters. But I'm sure he has some other aspect of Sri Ravi which he would like to share with you all.
So, brevity is the soul of wit. I'll be very brief. That impromptu addition to the luminaries and the dais is vividly clear. Bouquet's presentation made it absolutely clear to us. And speaking, of course, I just picked up after Sri Chakravarti Garu spoke, I thought I'll just add a little about Sri Ravi. All of us are introduced to Shakespeare in our student days. When we were doing graduation, it was compulsory for us to do one comedy and one tragedy in the first year and second year in Sri Venkateswara University, where I studied. As You Like It and Hamlet, these are the two we did in great detail. All others, of course, we did in story form, short stories, as it was told, in a non-detailed way. But then, I heard of Shakespeare quite a lot when I worked with Sri Ravi about 3.5 decades back. Both of us are in civil supplies, vigilance department at that time. A lot of time, spare time, a lot of travels, and the way he used to, whatever he has recited now is very little. Whole of the journeys used to be covered with these recitations in those days. And it's very, I don't know, Shakespeare is definitely an addiction. The reason is, he's a physicist, he has written about Shakespeare. Sri Chakravarti Garu The mathematician and a statistician, he spoke about Shakespeare. I am a chemist. I studied a bit of this one. And then even now, whenever we want to watch some of those old Hollywood movies, it is Shakespearean movies like Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, and then Antony. These are the things that we pick up and speak. I don't want to speak much about it, but then I have known about his addiction about this, not only about this, a lot of science subjects, particularly futuristic science that he used to talk about those days, that also set him apart from a lot of other officers who are in service. So that time we did not realize that all his passion for Shakespeare would find the form of a book. We are really happy that he has come out with this book, and it should make an interesting reading. Whatever I glance through now in the last few minutes, that promises us. Congratulations, sir, for penning this book and bringing it to us. Thank you.
Having been tempted to say a few words, apart from being the master of ceremonies of this function, I must let you know that he has another passion, Carnatic music. The way he is able to quote Shakespeare, he can also quote Tyagaraja Kritis, including the ragam, which ragam it is and all that. But that's for another evening, maybe some other time. Now I request Sri Ram Mohan Rao Garu to say a few words. Telugu Sahityam. He is so good in Telugu that we forget that his ancestors were Tamilians. Probably his wife's influence.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I need. But it's the same thing, you have to hold the mic, nevertheless. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, in the normal course, I would be attending this function, but not as a chief guest. But owing to the original chief guest sort of calling it off owing to some domestic issues, I've been asked to be the preside over this function. So I was reminded when this morning Ravi called me and said, 2 or 3 times he called me. I was actually taking a shave. And I was wondering what was the hurry that he should be calling 3 times in quick succession. Then in the midst of the shave, I went and picked up the phone. And he said the chief guest, for some reason, for some very valid reason, of course, dropped out, and therefore I should preside over the function as the chief guest. Of course, if Ravi makes a request, I can't say no, considering our long-standing relationship from the early 60s of the last century. But then I was reminded of, not in the same parallel, when Jawaharlal Nehru became the president of the Congress, Indian National Congress, for the first time, he said that I didn't become president coming from the front door. I didn't become president coming from the back door. I become the Congress president by the trap door. For literally, Ravi trapped me into presiding over this meeting. Nevertheless, it is a pleasure to be presiding over the meeting, because all of you have heard the erudition of Ravi at full display. If he had only been 20 years younger, we would have enjoyed it even more. Age, tells on our faculties, on our being able to speak, audit, and things like that. And then, Confessions of a Shakespeare's Addict. I don't know why he chose, whether it was because of his love for his profession, profession as a policeman, that he should be making confessions as an addict of Shakespeare. Probably, if he had consulted me, we could have thought of some other word, probably something like ruminations of a Shakespeare addict would have been more appropriate. Not that I have a criticism to make, but just a thought aside. Like the few speakers before me, I also did not read much of Shakespeare. My knowledge of Shakespeare, as they have said, is limited to the textbooks which we were prescribed. And I think in those days, I don't know for whatever reason, As You Like It and Julius Caesar used to be the only two Shakespearean plays which used to be prescribed in schools. And if they had to go to a third, it was Midsummer Night's Dream. For what little I know of Shakespeare is limited to those three plays, though later I might have learnt some stanzas of Hamlet or Macbeth or whatever you have. And even later, in later life, I have not read much of Shakespeare. In fact, I have not read much of anything in English literature. And my love used to be Wodehouse and not Shakespeare. Shakespeare was too classic, I suppose. And Wodehouse was more light-hearted. Oh yes, he taught us English, just as Shakespeare taught us English. Why I brought up Wodehouse is, I have another comment to make. You know, what you like in Wodehouse is Jeeves. And I might take all of you into a little secret that before Jayanti stepped into Ravi's life, he had a Jeeves of his own. I don't know whether Jayanti knows it. Whether money. Did he leave after you entered his life? Straight away. That's the typical Jeeves. Jeeves. For Jeeves, I was very fond of. And Ravi came into our lives in probably 65 or 66, after his training and all. But by then I had been deputed to the Intelligence Bureau, Government of India. And those years I was spending in Delhi and Jamshedpur on postings. For the first time I happened to meet Ravi was in Vijayawada, 67 or 68. 67, he was ASP. No, wait. ASP Vijayawada. 67 was it? 67. For he was a bachelor. Jayanti has not yet come into his life. And my native place being Vijayawada, whenever I went to Vijayawada, I always made it a point to see my colleagues, whether they were seniors or juniors. I never bothered about my rank. I got on well with my juniors more than I got on well with my seniors. And that includes Ravi. So we became very good friends. And we had another friend. We were the trio. That was KVV Subramaniam, who was 2 years ahead of me. Of course, Ravi was far junior to me. So we used to meet, and as we sort of conversed and chatted along, Ravi would bring Shakespeare into the picture and cite a few stanzas, and where he stopped, Subbu would pick up. He was also very good at English, and I was the country cousin. if you may agree to that phrase. For then Ravi, we had a lot to share, and then I was in a way responsible for Ravi's going to the R&AW, the research and analysis wing, and then he came back after. Yeah, the R&AW wanted some officers for deputation to the IB. I used to be the Central Intelligence Officer in Hyderabad. For all these references would come to the local Central Intelligence Officer, that he should recommend some names for deputation either to the Intelligence Bureau or to the R&AW. And I chose Ravi, and somebody talked of the gene pool. I still remember I said, I started my recommendation with the words, a scion of the Ladi family. I still remember, and that did it, and he was automatically there in the R&AW. Now, he had shared with us some quotations from Shakespeare. In fact, if he had not chosen to be a policeman, it would have been worthwhile for the nation, for all of us. He would have become a professor in English and in Shakespeare. What Ravi doesn't know of Shakespeare is not worth knowing. I might say that. And some of the quotations that he has made, including the fact that he outdid Powell in his uncle's car, I also knew it. In fact, I wanted to mention it, but he took it away from me. And the good thing about the whole exercise is that Ravi chose to write these reflections on Shakespeare. Reflections on Shakespeare would have been probably the correct thing. And we can all have a look at them and read them and enjoy Shakespeare. And in fact, I wanted to say a third thing, but age has caught on. I've forgotten that, what I wanted to say. And I think I violated the principle laid out by Chakravarti, who said that speeches should be inversely proportional to one's age. I made a sufficiently long speech, and with these remarks, I wish Ravi and Jayanti many more years of active life and good luck, and a lot of reading of Shakespeare. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for responding to Ravi's invitation and coming in such good numbers and making this evening a very enjoyable and delightful one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now it is revealed that the original intended chief guest is not Mr. Ram Mohan Rao. I somehow didn't want to reveal that, but surprises. So, actually, the chief guest was supposed to be Mrs. Nirmala Lakshman, who is the chairman of the board of directors of The Hindu. The Hindu is synonymous with NRAM, but there are also others who have contributed substantially. So she has sent her message for this occasion. She couldn't come because her 90-year-old mother is hospitalized and battling with life. So if you permit me, I'll read her message on this occasion. Do I have your permission? Okay. This is what Mrs. Nirmala Lakshman would have actually delivered as her message had she been present here. Good evening. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here vicariously though, to be here this evening at the launch of this wonderful book on the great William Shakespeare, whose words and wisdom permeate our everyday life, often even without us being aware of it. My warmest congratulations and gratitude to Sri V.S. Ravi, the author, who kindly invited me to this event, and my thanks too to the publishers and supporters of this remarkable book for the invitation today. This is going to be a great addition to the literary world, and not just to those of us who love Shakespeare, as indeed many of us here do. Mr. Ravi was a distinguished and decorated IPS officer with whom I had the honor of interacting several years ago when he wrote many articles on Shakespeare for the Hindu Sunday magazine that I was editing at that point. For about a decade, Ravi shared with the readers of the Hindu his remarkable passion for Shakespeare, conveying rare insights, a deeply reflective perspective, and telling us why Shakespeare's wisdom and views matter to us even today as we navigate everyday life. Ravi's articles for the Hindu were rich and wide-ranging, engaging with multiple aspects of Shakespeare, and explained to the reader why this greatest of English writers bears no comparison to anyone else. From talking about the astonishing vocabulary of the great poet, who also coined nearly 2,000 new words in the language, to highlighting the fact that we all use so many of Shakespeare's phrases in our daily lives. He is the most quoted poet in history. Ravi also showed us that Shakespeare displayed a remarkable and innate understanding of human nature and emotions in his plays and poems. The timelessness of Shakespeare's work is reflected in his acute and constant awareness of the human condition, as Ravi frequently pointed out to us. As students of Shakespeare, we ourselves know how wonderfully Shakespeare dealt with subjects like love, loss, ambition, betrayal, and evil. Through school days and college days, we have all grown up being impacted by Shakespeare in some way or the other. His greatness is something that stays indelibly with those of us who had the privilege to be exposed to his work. Ravi wrote that Shakespeare's knowledge of science, mathematics, literature, psychology, as well as law, the European languages, and music put him above every other writer. In fact, I recall that in one article he and Ravi Garu excoriates a BBC poll among a few voters in England who once placed Shakespeare as a runner-up and positioned him below Isaac Newton, when a poet like Coleridge had declared that Shakespeare was equal to more than 500 Newtons. Ravi's brilliant argument, placing Shakespeare above all other Englishmen, was extremely persuasive, leaving no doubts in the readers' minds about the foolishness of the voters in that poll as against the standing of the great poet. I am sure the writings in Ravi's book aptly demonstrate Shakespeare's greatness. This is a happy coming together of one scholar's passion and another's great genius. What more can aid understanding the genius of Shakespeare than such an exercise. And to quote Ravi's words from one of his last articles, I quote, "Incomparable Shakespeare shines with his incandescent luminosity through every word he wrote. This cannot be said of any other poet or dramatist since the dawn of human civilization," unquote. Thank you very much for this opportunity to participate in this important event, which is a great contribution not just to students of literature and students of William Shakespeare, but a service to humankind which needs now more than ever to hold on to the wisdom of the bard. That's the end of Mrs. Nirmala Lakshman's message. I suppose now we have more or less come to the vote of thanks part. Aishwarya Ramappa. Before that, of course, mementos. Mrs. Ravi garu, meere hand over chestara? Oh, Mr. Ravi will hand over. Far more. There is a bouquet also. Now it's all yours, Aishwarya.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasant duty to propose a vote of thanks to all those gathered here and who have contributed to making the function a grand success by their presence. I would like to thank our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Ram Mohan Rao, former DGP of Andhra Pradesh and former governor of Tamil Nadu. Thank you, sir, for graciously honoring us by releasing the book today at such a short notice. I would like to extend my gratitude to the publisher, Mr. Devakar, who brought out this impressive book in such a short time. Mr. Ravi mentioned that he felt guilty disturbing you so many times during the publishing process, but you were so patient all through. Thank you, sir. I would like to also thank Mr. Chakravarti, retired IAS, for being here. And further, I would also like to thank the police fraternity that's present here, especially Mr. A.K. Khan. My apologies for the bouquet earlier. And thank you, sir, Mr. Krishna Rao, for another former DGP of Andhra Pradesh. We have, in fact, been very grateful for your help today. And thank you for conducting the proceedings in such a seamless and precise manner given the time constraints. I would also like to thank the press for covering the event. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this August gathering. And finally, I would like to congratulate Mr. Ravi for producing such an intellectually stimulating book, which I'm sure will leave a lasting impression on all its readers. And on that note, I would also like to mention that the books are available for sale here today, and Mr. Ravi will be autographing them for all those who are interested. And this is Aishwarya Ramappa signing off. I hope you all had a lovely evening, and good night.